Hello, my darlings. I'm Sophie Darling, and welcome to my react to the season 1 finale, which is crazy. We're already at the finale of Attack on Titan for season 1. I'm really excited to see how this episode plays out, but I'm most excited to see how it entices me to watch series 2, because usually there's like a cliffhanger at the end of a series. Obviously, I'm lucky I'm not having to wait a long time to watch series 2. I could technically watch series 2 today if I wanted. It's just I'm curious as to what's going to happen with Annie at the end of all this. Like, is Annie, I imagine they're going to capture Annie because they need to know why she's doing this, and I have a feeling it's going to be based on her, where she grew up. And I think something probably horrendous has happened, and it has made her resentful of the inner walls, maybe resentful of the corruption. In the same hand, maybe she's resentful of the fact that the people in the lower walls and poorer people in general are treated with contempt and disgust. So maybe it's with the class system itself. I have a feeling something tragic has happened in Annie's backstory, and we're not necessarily going to begrudge her and her actions when we find out. And when we learn it, we kind of go, fair. I would do the same. It's not coming from nowhere. Annie doesn't strike me as that kind of person. I think it is like a deep-rooted hatred for the system itself because it has harmed her and her loved ones in some way. But yeah, if you enjoy these types of reacts, please consider liking, subscribing, and leaving a comment below to help boost me into the algorithm. And we're gonna get into the season finale of Attack on Titan.
仕方ないでしょ。世界は残酷なんだから。
駆逐してやる。いや、殺す。
あの日、人類は思い出した。奴らに支配されていた恐怖を、鳥かごの中に囚われていた屈辱を。
祈りましょう。マリア、ローゼ、シーナ、三つの女神の健在を、我々の安泰を。神聖なる壁を疑ってはなりません。我々の信仰心を捧げることで。
Wait, is this the building that she collapses into?
信じる無垢な心こそが巨人から我々を守る術であり、唯一巨人を退けられる力で。
Yes, yes it is.
巨人、なぜこ
Oh
こに。
shit.
壁に近づくでない。壁に。
What do you mean, not the walls? You've just watched your congregation get absolutely slaughtered.
今回はまだしも自分を保ってるようだな。はい。ただ、エレンは今まで一度も女型に勝てていません。
巨人になった以上、奴だって腹くくってるはずだ。そう簡単に。
戦いは気合でどうにかなるもんじゃないよ。ジャンだって知ってるでしょ。あの兄をしのぐには。
方が平地に入るぞ。あれじゃ立体機能が使えない。
She knows.
了解。
She knows she can take Eren one-on-one, but not with everyone else helping. And the maneuver gear is somewhat isn't as effective in an open area. She's got you where she wants you, Eren.
兄、お前はいつも周りがバカに見えて仕方ないって顔してたな。いつもつまんなそうにしてた。 そんなお前が生き生きしてる時がある。その格闘術を披露する時だ。そんなものに意味はないと言ってたけど、俺にはお前がそう思ってるようには見えなかった。お前は嘘をつくのが下手なやつだと俺はそう思っていた。なあ兄、お前何のために戦ってんだ。
And how does she discover that she can do this?
人を殺せだ。
これは分隊長、たとえ女型を捕獲できてもこれじゃあ町が廃墟になるんじゃ。
それでもやるんだよ。それがエルヴィの判断だ。
聞いてないよ、そんなの。なんでここで巨人が戦ってるわけ？
一体何なんだ。住民、兵士ともに多数の死傷者が出ています。エルヴィン、全て貴様の作戦が招いたことか。そうだ。
Oh, Erwin's going to get
全て
himself
私の独断専行だ。
killed for treason, isn't
弁
he?
解するつもりはない。
He done what he thought was best for humanity,
街中で
but
そんな作戦を決行すればどんな事態になるか分かっていたはず。
he's gonna be killed for
なぜそん
treason.
なことができた。人類の勝利のためだ。ふざけるな！貴様は反撃者だ。今すぐこの場で処刑しても上は文句を言わんだろう。構わない。だが後の指揮も頼むぞ。は？彼らと連携し東の壁際に何としても女型を追い込むんだ。お前、これが本当に人類のためだと。その一歩になると信じている。全員銃を下ろせ。奴には手錠を。はっ。全兵を現場に派遣し住民の避難救助を最優先で行え。はい。貴様の処刑は正当な裁きで決めてもらおう。全てが終われば喜んだ。リヴァイ、お前は動くな。無駄死には嫌いだろう。
ああ、嫌いだ。するのもさせるのもな。
So Erwin in his mind is probably making the ultimate sacrifice for humanity. His own life.
ために必要なら人間性さえ捨てる。
And he threw aside his humanity regarding the interior
それができる。
to conduct this plan. Because he saw it as the only way to get to Annie.
兄。兄。兄。父さんだけはお前の味方だ。
Come on, Eren. Regenerate. Get up.
俺は巨人を殺す。一匹残らず。
What? Oh my god, that design is so cool.
壁を乗り越える気か。このままじゃ逃げられる。行かせない。兄、落ちて。
兄、俺が間違っていた。今さら許してくれとは言わないけど、一つだけ頼みがある。この世の全てを敵に回したっていい。
俺はこの世の全てを破壊する。
この世の全てからお前が恨まれることになっても、父さんだけはお前の味方だ。
まずい、中身も食われるぞ。
エレン、よせ。
俺は自由だ。
だから約束してくれ。帰ってくるって。
なんだ。
融合してる。
大事な証人を食うんじゃねえよ。
バカ野郎。
Oh, well done, Levi. I wasn't sure what the hell was going on. I really don't think I've said much this whole react. I've just been absorbed into what's happening. What we can share so far, the walls, the year 784, one blistering hot night, a miner decided to dig under Walsina to live within the inner ring. Life in Walsina would be pretty nice. That thought had come to him suddenly a few days ago as he dug with his shovel deep in a coal mine. In a way, you could call it divine inspiration. And so for the next few days, he wandered along the wall, finally settling on a spot where the dense forest pressed against it. No one would chance upon him, and the overhead leaves would shelter him and his task from the praying eyes of the gods above. On the next night, he began using his trusty shovel. The miner began to dig. The work went smoothly, and before long, the pit was as deep as he was tall. When he could no longer fling the dirt outside it, he stuffed it into sacks, climbing a ladder to discard it. Completely dedicated to the task at hand, he took only a few short breaks to drink water and ease his weary muscles. After spending 20 years of his life digging without a day of rest, the miner knew he was an expert at it, and during that time he'd learned to dig deeper, more quickly and more efficiently than anyone else. Tunnels that would stump any other miner were no match for his shovel, but that day was different. He dug for hours, yet never seemed to get anywhere. As he dug, he probed to either side of the main pit with his shovel, but it was no use. The wall's foundation seemed to go down forever deep into the earth, blocking his path at every turn. Still he persevered. Any thought of digging his way to an easy life outside Walsina had been long forgotten. Simply wanted to conquer the wall. I'm willing to bet all the years I've spent digging that I will beat this wall, he said to himself, wiping the sweat from his brow. Hole was more than 4 or 5 times the miner's height when he struck hard rock. He wondered, bedrock. It appeared to be of the same material as the wall's foundation itself. Miner swung his shovel down hard on the rock. The shovel shattered, but the rock was unscathed. Miner sighed, and his sigh was deeper than any hole he'd dug in the previous 20 years. Okay, so the walls are not man-made then. So then the question comes in, is how the hell were the walls built? With a frown, his friend questioned, "The wall, it's weird, isn't it?" the miner said, lifting his drink to his lips. Who knew that the wall went so deep underground? Hair sat across from words. The pair sat across from one another at a table in the back of a tavern in a seedy part of town. Most days the miner would go there with his friend, his only friend, after work. That day, the day after he tried to dig under the wall, they'd gone there as usual once the workday was done, and then the miner told his friend the story, certain that his friend could keep a secret. Maybe he was surrounded by walls, not only above the ground but below the ground too, said the miner. Tell me something. What exactly are the walls? His friend cut him off with a cough, glancing around the tavern. Patrons were all busy drinking, hitting on the tavern maid or yelling at one another. No one was watching them, but even so, the miner decided not to say another word about it. If anyone heard him, the military police would be there in an instant. Does it really matter? His friend asked. Just keep on living here as you always have. You're poor, but you have a job every day and enough money that you can drink. Isn't that enough? Yeah, the miner replied. Yeah, it is. I'll go back to digging. In the end, I guess that's my lot in life. But the next day, the miner didn't show up for work. Nor the next, nor the day after. His friend went to his house many times but never saw any sign of him. The miner had no relatives nor other close friends, so there was no one to ask where he might have gone. Unsure what to do, his friend eventually went to the garrison and told them the whole story. The next day, the military police and the garrison organized a large-scale search party. It was a little excessive for one poor miner, even if that miner was a criminal who tried to pass under the walls. His friend couldn't understand why they were so bent on finding him, but they never found a trace of the miner, nor even the pit he dug. One day his friend also vanished, never to be seen again. Okay, I don't know if I want to make the comparison, but it kind of sounds like Stalinesque Russia, where you were whisked away for questioning how things were, and were expected to just accept the narrative that you've been told all your life, and to question it was to go against the government, so you were spirited away. And kind of seems like maybe there's an organization above the military police. I don't know. Very odd. It's given the indication that the walls are not man-made. Was this kingdom maybe usurped from somebody else? Maybe there was a relationship between humans and titans, or titan-human hybrids that went sour and they were betrayed, and now they're trying to take back what was stolen from them by the king? I don't know. It's all very confusing.
Eren.
ミカサ、兄は。
くそ、何なんだよ。ここまで来てだんまりかよ。兄、出てこい。おい、卑怯だぞ。兄。
よせ。無駄だ。
これを縛って地下へ運ぶ。
了解。
このまま兄から何の情報も引き出せなかったら何が残る？多くの死者を出し、その人生を失い、謎ばかり残して。
作戦成功とは言えねえな。
いや、我々調査兵団の首はつながった。おそらく首の皮一枚だ。
だといいがな。
で、多大な犠牲を払った今作戦において人類の終焉を阻止できたとの確証はあるのか？今の兄レオンハートから何か聞き出せるとは思えんが。はい、不可能でしょう。つまり無駄骨なのか？
エレン。
Not
体は大丈夫。
for nothing, but for the sake of trying to save humanity.
気持ち悪いくらいに元通りだ。
Just unfortunately, sometimes risks need to be
固まったままだってな。
あれだけ大掛かりな作戦やって収穫なしかよ。
あそこまでして情報を守ったんだ、兄は。
ああ、まんまと逃げられた。
逃がしたのはエレンだ。そうでしょう、エレン。
Eren?
一瞬がなければ。
アルミンの言う通りだ。俺はやり損なった。兄を見たら動けなくなっちまった。あの時気持ちいいと思った。 体が壊れんのなんか生成するくらいだった。なんならこのまま死んでもいいってくらい。
エレン、
今は思ってねえよ。
戻ってきてくれてよかった。
俺には理解できねえな。化け物をしのぐためなら人間性さえ捨てる。そうでなきゃ勝てねえか。
人類が巨人に勝つための可能性の一つだよ。エレンならできると思う。
そんな化け物になって巨人を駆逐したとして、それは人類の勝利なのか。
簡単には超えられない。
しかし私は人類が生き残るための人間が巨人化するなど想像さえしていなかった頃と比較すれば、敵の一人を拘束したことは大きな前進です。そう、奴らは必ずいるのです。一人残らず追い詰めましょう。壁の中にいる巨人を全て。今度は我々が進撃する番です。
調査兵団とエレン・イェーガーの王と召喚は凍結され、地下深くに収容されたアニ・レオンハートの管理は調査兵団に委ねられた。人類が自分たちが何に囚われているのかを知るのはまだ時間と犠牲が必要だった。
Never even learned about the basement. We didn't even get the basement this season. Maybe next season. Maybe that's what keeps you hooked. That damn key. Huh? What? There's titans in the walls? There's titans in the walls. Oh my goodness. Have they been sealed inside the walls to protect humanity? Or like, did they seal themselves inside the walls to protect humanity? Is that why they're so huge? Or maybe, oh my god, maybe history's wrong. Maybe the Titans were here first and humans are the bane. What? Maybe, yeah, maybe the Titans were here first. Maybe like human Titans were like a norm and then the humans took over and ruined everything. I don't know anymore. I don't know. That's terrifying. I honestly don't know. Like, we didn't learn about the basement, but we're gonna have to eventually learn about the basement. There's also been some, so that may be in season 2, but they may even drag that out even further. I don't know. Then there was mention of that humans can become titans and that they're living among us in the walls, which means next season we're gonna see more human titans crop up, but also maybe learn more about that connection between humans and titans. So we know Eren is able to transform because his dad injected him with something, but we don't know about Annie. So we don't know if this is just something that like a certain category of human can do, or whether it's something they can like train themselves to do. I have a feeling it has to be something to do with like your bloodline, but it makes me real curious as to how Annie was able to, and the fact that there's others, and are they living among humanity to try and assimilate, or are they living in the walls biding their time to rebel? And who's the Colossal and who's the Armoured Titan? They must be living within the walls. They must be participating in this rebellion against the walls. Are they rebelling against the walls to free these Titans that have been sealed inside the walls? Or maybe Maybe. I don't know. Oh my goodness. What a season, though. What a season. I think because the key has shown up twice now in terms of symbolism, like we're gonna eventually have to see what that key is related to, but oh my goodness. What a show. Like, just phenomenal. The music, the action scenes, the character development, plot twists. What a show. 10 out of 10 already, and this is only season 1, so I'm really excited to see how this does progress. I just really want to watch season 2 now. I really want to watch season 2. Holy moly. This is crazy. This is crazy. It was also nice to see Eren and Mikasa have like a little bonding moment and him actually being soft and sweet with her in a way that he hasn't been previously. So maybe he's learned a little bit, but yeah, I'm really, really excited to see where this goes. I can't wait. I can't wait. This has been phenomenal. Series 1 was a wild ride, and I'm sorry that episode 25 outro was incredibly short. I wanted to take the opportunity to sit back and reflect in order to kind of formulate my theories for what I think is going to happen as the show progresses. There's a lot of information thrown at you in so short a time frame. So I wanted to go back and rewatch and also structure everything out that I wanted to say. I was going to delve into themes, but I've decided I'm not going to do that because I just feel like I'm repeating everything that I've already said. I'm not really adding anything new, especially because I think these themes are overarching themes. So like the topic of utilitarianism, questioning what you believe is morally and ethically right in these situations, the indomitable human spirit, trauma, the class system, all these themes are going to reoccur. They're not just a temporary theme. They will be something that I see the show continuing to play out. Theories are also quite long, and I didn't want this episode to be super, super long, so I have decided to just cut it down to my theories, but also the questions that I hope the show answers, because I think they will be fun to look back on and see if the show did answer them. Obviously, do not answer them in the comments below because this isn't for you. This is just so you know where my head is at. I don't want them answered now. I want the show to answer them. So please don't answer them because that would spoil the show for me and that would ruin your watching experience. And it would also ruin mine. I love this show. I have enjoyed every single minute. I'll not lie that when I watched episode 1, I was a bit concerned. I was a bit like, is the show going to use death as a shock factor? I don't know how I feel about this, but I thought I'll continue because I really enjoyed episode 1. I kind of want to see where it goes. God, the show is incredibly deep. It forces you to question your ideas of what is morally and ethically okay. It constantly forces you to evaluate whether you agree with what is going on. It changes your conception of ethics and morality. There is something I'm going to mention here that I wish I had mentioned in my outro, and it is, so there is the conversation regarding only those who can sacrifice everything can make a change. We constantly see Eren being willing to put people's lives in the firing line, to risk his own life of being executed for treason for even the slightest advantage over the Titans for the sake of humanity. And we saw that in episode 24 and episode 25, just how far he is willing to go. We see this really visually striking juxtaposition in episode 25 between Erwin's voice saying that he did all of this to lead humanity to victory, and then this young girl just covered in blood wandering the streets. She's traumatized, she's alone, so you have to presume that her family have died and she has witnessed that, and it forces you to sit and go, was this correct? Was this the right decision? Erwin did what he believed was right, but again, at what cost. It's similar to when Levi says to Erwin that it's due to the backup soldiers that they were able to lure the female Titan into that trap, and it was their sacrifice that made this possible. That you also think back to episode 16 where Erwin says, if you are commanded to die, can you do so? It really drives home the point that Erwin will do anything if he believes and deems it necessary for the benefit of humanity. But again, you have to question at what cost. The cost for him was the loss of innocence and destruction of Walsina, but also his own life at risk in doing this. The show forces us to wrestle with whether we agree or not with such a decision, or whether we see it as reckless and dismissive in seeing these lives as disposable whilst preaching to care about humanity as a whole. And we see Neil being conflicted, and he's torn between condemning Owen, but at the same time doesn't kill him because of the fact that this may save humanity in the long term. And it plays into Armin's earlier words of those who cannot sacrifice everything cannot change anything. And Erwin is willing to sacrifice it all, including his own life. I think the show seems to be driving home the point that we need to be questioning at what cost, though, rather than just blindly agreeing that it's right and justified. I think it wants us to wrestle with, what would you do in this situation? Would you sacrifice your humanity? Could you put innocent lives in danger for even the slightest benefit of advancement? And what if it's all for nothing? Could you have that burden on your shoulders knowing that you've sacrificed numerous people for nothing, that it may end up being fruitless in the end? So I think the show really wants us to look at, are these actions justified? Can it truly benefit humanity to treat human lives as disposable? Can we truly benefit humanity if we are so willing to throw away our emotions and slip down this dangerous slope of not caring for others because we see them as disposable in an attempt to advance humanity as a whole? It's a really difficult situation to be in. Being straight up and honest, I don't think I could do what Erwin does, because I think every life is valuable and I think everyone should be treated equally, and I don't think people's lives should be thrown away recklessly for the slightest bit of advancement. But at the same time, I can't condemn Erwin for what he did, because I think in his mind it was the only option available, and I don't think he would have done it unless he thought it truly was the only option available. I love that the show forces us to question our conception of ethics and morality, and straight up, I could not be in Erwin's position, and I know that because I couldn't make those decisions. And that's why Erwin's in that position and I am not, because I couldn't sacrifice the lives of innocent people for even the slightest bit of advancement, especially that image of that little girl walking down the street traumatized and covered in blood, and the destruction of the homes and the fires raging. I could not live with that guilt of knowing that I caused this and it may have been for nothing. But I love that the show does this. The show is so incredibly beautiful, so incredibly deep. I'm not sure how it can get better, so I'm really excited to see what season 2 brings. The show's already thrown me for a loop. Every time I felt like I knew where the show was going, it diverted a different direction. So my mind has been like in a tizzy, which is why I've rewatched series 1, so I could like sit and do my theories and to try and reformulate my thoughts, especially because I watch 3 episodes at a time and there's usually like a week's break in between. So I wanted to rewatch it all in one sitting, and I literally yesterday, which is Monday, I sat and watched from episode 1 to episode 25, and I was taking notes and bullet points as I was going. I was over analyzing everything. I was pausing. I was switching between sub and dub. I watched it in dub and I wasn't the biggest fan. So I know some people are quite elitist in terms of like sub is always best, because I'm watching the Death Note in dub and I really like the dub of Death Note. I just didn't like Eren's voice actor in the dub, and he was really annoying and I wanted to kind of punch him in the face every time he spoke. So it was really infuriating for me. So I couldn't watch that dubbed because I just couldn't emotionally connect with Eren. I'm just like, I really dislike you. The English translations almost like try to baby you and hold your hand and like tell you what's happening instead of allowing you to put the dots together and figure it out. I feel like the sub trusts you to try and figure it out yourself and like gives you that opportunity to do so. And the shock factor comes from not knowing what's going to happen because it doesn't baby you, whereas I feel like the English version was really babying. There were some sentences that I switched between sub and dub to see what the Japanese version of it was, because obviously I don't remember it being that explicit, and it was a lot more obvious what was happening in the dub than it was in the sub, because the sub decided it wasn't going to just like outright tell you what's going on. But yeah, I wanted to get that out because I found that quite interesting. Also, something I noticed that isn't in the sub, and I'm not sure if anyone else has watched sub and dub and has noticed this, but in the dub, Eren's internal monologue is sometimes, especially when he's talking about killing them all, killing all the Titans, is overlaid by his Titan voice. So it has like a warp to it, and it's his Titan voice, which is already giving you away from episode 2 that there's more to him than meets the eye. Whereas in the Japanese sub version, that's not the case. His internal monologue is his normal voice actor. There's no like distortion to it. His Titan voice isn't overlaid over his normal voice. So like the mystery is still there. I watched it on Crunchyroll and I switched back and forth to listen to make sure I wasn't like hearing things. But no, the Titan voice is definitely overlaid in episode 2 when he said, "I will kill them all. I will kill all the Titans." You can hear the Titan voice. I found that quite interesting. Thought I would mention that here in case anyone else has noticed that as well, because I thought that was bizarre. But yes, we are gonna get into my theories before I start rambling, and I have some theories that some of you might think are outlandish, and the first one is about the Armored Titan and who the Armored Titan might be. And y'all are gonna think I'm absolutely batshit insane, but hear me out, okay? So we know from watching the show that the Armored Titan is working alongside the Colossal, or at least that is the presumption that we are making. So when the Colossal first attacked, the Armored Titan also appeared. But when the Colossal reappeared at Trust, the Armored Titan didn't. And it was presumed because something had changed, which was Eren. So at this point, we as the Watchers don't know that Eren can transform, but he has already been injected. Between the events of episode 1 and episode 2, Eren is injected by Grisha because he wakes up and has the key around his neck. And he has that flashback in episode 2. And I thought that was something that was going to happen, but it was actually something that had already happened. So we know that between the events of episode 1 and episode 2, Grisha injects Eren with the Titan blood. So when he goes on to train, he already has Titan blood inside of him. And it's obvious when you see him hit his head in episode 3, his head is steaming, which is a foreshadowing that I missed on my first watch, but on my second watch, I very quickly noticed that. The takeaway from this is that we have to resume that Titans and Titan hybrids are able to sense Titan blood to some extent, or they are hyper aware of the potential powers. Because if we think back to when Annie paused when Armin spoke about her killing Eren, and Armin referred to Eren by the nickname that suicidal bastard, Annie hesitated, but then she still ran for the center guard as if gravitating towards Eren, as if she knew he was there. But she couldn't have known because nobody outright said it or confirmed it. So it must mean that she senses him to some regard. And again, during the Battle of Trust, the Titans ignore the soldiers trying to distract them from Eren, and they begin to start going towards Eren. So there has to be something drawing them and making them aware of who he is. We also know that Annie was able to lead Titans towards the right vanguard, meaning that they were following her and then likely got distracted by the humans, but it also means that they can potentially sense human Titan hybrids because they have a significant interest in Eren and also Annie. So if we lead with this idea that Titans and Titan hybrids can sense the blood or the power of other Titan hybrids, then Annie may have already suspected Eren prior to his interaction with the Colossal when the Colossal reappeared. Colossal also disappeared really, really quickly after kicking the wall. So it likely also sensed that something was off about Eren and disengaged, because there's the assumption that the spy is who called off the Armored Titan, but I'm not sure if that is the case. I'm thinking that Annie was aware of Eren's potential to be a Titan human hybrid, but because he had not transformed, she was not sure, so needed to confirm it. And the Colossal attacked and was also sensed that something was off about Eren and disengaged very quickly. And I believe that the Armored Titan was possibly called off by the Colossal. So this is where it gets a bit wild. I believe that not only was the Armored Titan called off by the Colossal, because the Colossal noted that something was off, but that the Armored Titan also witnessed the transformation of Eren alongside Annie. So now you're probably asking, who does she think the Armored Titan is? Well, so I rewatched season 1 to prepare for this outro, and looking back, I think the show is already trying to tell us who it is. So we know in episode 25 that Erwin suspects that there are more like Annie within the walls. And we know that she is not working alone because she is acting as a spy for somebody. However, what if Annie was not the only one to witness Eren's transformation? And what if she's not the only spy that's been recruited? What if there are more spies that have infiltrated and he's just the first to be caught? So based off of appearance and going back and looking in detail at the appearance of the Armored Titan when it first appears in episode 1, it looks like Reina. It has a similar hairstyle, similar facial structure. It also possesses immense strength, and this argument may seem weak, but hear me out, okay? Hear me out. I gaslit myself about Annie. The female Titan showed up and I went, oh my god, that looks like Annie. And I gaslit myself so hard, but I'm not being gaslit on this because I am fully on the hill that Reina is the Armored Titan. And the reason for that is more than just the facial structure, but little things that have been cropping up throughout series 1 that I'm like, that's really odd. Why do they keep panning to Reina and Annie in these moments? So in episode 4, Jean and Eren get into that fight, and the camera pans from Eren to Reina and then to Annie, who are both watching him with interest, almost as if to see what he's going to do, as if they're waiting almost to see if he will switch. And we know that in between episode 1 and 2, Eren is injected by Grisha. So when he's training, he already has the blood inside of him, but he's unaware of it as he doesn't remember it happening. So if Titan hybrids can sense the blood, then Reina and Annie know what Eren is already. The fact that it pans between all 3 of them, right, seems like a creative choice. But if through the process of elimination, then Annie and Eren are both Titan hybrids, why is Reina included in this panning shot? Why is he included in that process of elimination? It's hinting at something, almost as if the show is foreshadowing for something to come, like a reveal to come. This isn't the only time. I know people might be sat going like, why is she going on like full conspiracy theory about this? Like, she's so wrong. If it was one coincidence, I'd be like, yes, I agree with you. But there's another instance. And again, it's so weird. And I was just like, this is too much of a coincidence of it happening in episode 4 and again in episode 10 for it to not mean something, for there to be a deeper meaning to it. In episode 10, when the soldiers see the flash of Eren transforming to protect Mikasa and Armin from the cannon fire, the camera zooms in on both Annie and Reina reacting, but no one else. So why them two again? Reina keeps being paired with Annie in these moments, and it's making me really, really sus now knowing that Annie is the female Titan. And Reina is also the first to recognize and react to that flash when no one else really knows what is going on or what that flash means. Reina wouldn't know what that flash means because he was not there when the Colossal attacked. We know that Reina is from a town near the mountains and heard about the breach too late. So how does he recognize the flash? It's because he already knows what it symbolizes. Not only that, when you see Reina take off towards the flash, Annie is right behind him, and she's the second person to launch into action to see what's going on. On my first watch, I thought it was just them rushing to protect everyone from like a potential Titan attack. But the more I think about it, the weirder it seems that they would think that this was a Titan attack because they wouldn't know what that flash means unless they have had personal experience with that flash, especially because Jean is really confused as to what's going on. And secondly, it almost seems like Raina and Annie wanted to see what was happening and to clarify possibly if Eren could actually transform like themselves or whether it was a fluke. So yeah, I am on the hill that Raina is more than what he appears to be. I don't know who the Colossal is. The Colossal confuses me. I haven't seen a character that it really looks like. If I had to guess anybody, it would be Pixies, but that's only because they're both bald. Based on appearances and the way that he keeps being paired alongside Eren and Annie in episode 4, but then with Annie in episode 10 and knowing what that flash means, there's something deeper going on. So that is my theory for who the Armored Titan is. And yeah, I know I sound insane. This is what the show does to you. It makes you question absolutely everything. I can't begin to tell you how many times I watched episode 4 and 10, those scenes back, just to be like, am I missing something? Is there something deeper going on? What else is that? Like, I was zoned in. I don't think it's a creative choice. I think there's a meaning behind it. My second theory is that Titans are misunderstood and Annie's actions are going to be humanized and we are going to understand and probably relate to her feelings. I think her actions are going to be justified and we're going to see that she has maybe done this for the greater good of humanity or as a way to protect her people. I'm still convinced that there's another place that has had war raged against it, or perhaps there's disenfranchised people that were cast out and mistreated by the current king due to their abilities. So maybe Titan hybrids that existed before but were maybe driven out or ran out. I'm not sure, but I think there has to be something else going on. There's no way that she just did this without there being a good reason. And we've seen that Annie does care about those around her and does care about injustice. So there has to be a deeper reasoning behind her actions. I think the intrusion on the walls is being used as a way to either retake back what was once their home rather than an attack on all humanity, because if they truly wanted to kill humans then they would have done so. I don't know. I keep thinking back to Eren's vision in episode 1 and there's a headless statue, right, in royal uniform, as if it's been purposely destroyed. And usually when you see like a statue like that being purposely destroyed, it's because it represents something. So to me, I'm like, could that be a previous ruler to the current king? The image of that decapitated statue feels almost like it's hinting at resentment and rebellion against the monarchy, but maybe could indicate that the true leader was usurped by another, which is the current king that is ruling. There's also in Eren's vision, it pans from that scene of the statue to a bed with children's toys, and then there's curtains, and the curtains have flowers and crowns on them. So to me, I thought that was like a symbol of royalty and nobility, but the bed doesn't appear to be that of a noble child. So what I think it's hinting at could be like a deposed royal family in hiding, maybe an escaped heir being hid amongst the impoverished, because it gives the appearance of like a very impoverished household, but the curtains almost seem to hint that the child could be of like noble origins, noble birth, which could be if we say that there's been a usurpation, that the current king has usurped a previous ruler and that ruler has been killed. It could be that maybe their child was smuggled out and hidden. Again, could be overthinking it, but it does raise questions because Marla in episode 23 said, who would rebel against the monarchy? So that makes me think that the current monarchy was one taken by force force from another, and these Titan hybrids are perhaps fighting to reclaim what was taken and to reinstate the rightful ruler, because it seems kind of odd that it's like, who would rebel against the monarchy, almost as if hinting that there is a reason why people would want to rebel against the monarchy. It almost feels like a rhetorical question of like, well, who would want to do that? And then the show is kind of like, haha, wait till we tell you why people would do that. So I feel like it's almost hinting that there's something else happening, but we're just not aware of it as of yet. And there's also a conversation between Annie and Eren in episode 24, where she says that everyone is expecting them to play the game and be a pawn, implying that there's something larger at play that we're not aware of. That Annie is rebelling against a system that is rigged to penalize and harm those they view as lesser, which could be rooted in the discrimination against Titan hybrids. So at the end of episode 25, we saw that Titans now form the walls, right? So we have to question if it's really true that they appeared suddenly 100 years ago, or if we've been fed false information regarding history and the Titans actually predate humans. So again, Eren in episode 9 questions, why has everything been taken from us, our lives, our dreams, everything? I don't think this is just an existential crisis that he's having whilst being in the belly of the Titan, but more hinting at the potential of corruption that is rooted deep into the system that rules them and dictates who lives and dies, who deserves safety and who does not. Perhaps at some point there was a genocide against a race of people, which has led to those who have escaped to retaliate against the walls itself as like a symbol of resistance and rebellion. And again, thinking back to episode 25, we get a glimpse into Annie and her dad. And in one of the scenes, he's begging her for forgiveness and making her promise that she'll return. So that is implying that she is leaving. Perhaps that's when she becomes a spy. Perhaps becoming a spy was not so much voluntary, but maybe due to her age and being able to blend in with the other graduates easier than someone older would be able to. And her father also says, stand your ground even if the whole world stands against you. They'll despise you, they won't understand, but I will, your dad always will. Which I believe is in reference to what she is fighting for, that she is defending people against the injustices of the world, or at least attempting to. We also know that she's very adept at using her Titan abilities, which implies that she's been learning from a young age, perhaps honing this skill alongside her combat abilities. I'm saying perhaps a lot because I don't want to say it as if it's like a categorical fact. I don't want people to come in and be like, you're wrong. This is just a theory. I don't know if this is correct or not. This is just what I have been drafting since rewatching series 1. So it could be completely crackpot, it could be completely wrong. This show likes to mislead you, so I could be dying on the wrong hill, but time will tell, and it's just fun to kind of see where my mind is at. We also know that when Annie captured Eren, she was taking him somewhere. I don't believe Eren was being captured to be eliminated as a threat because she would have just killed him then and there. She was taking him somewhere. And I think that she was maybe bringing him somewhere where they're going to attempt to recruit him into rebelling against the walls, that maybe they know something that would change Eren's perspective and cause him to rebel against what the walls represent. In episode 16, Armoured also says that whoever killed Sawney and Bean set back humanity's advancement into researching Titans and learning more about them. And we know that Annie killed them for a reason, but we don't know what that reason is. Hopefully we'll find that out at some point. But Armin also teases Annie by asking if she's attempting to discourage them from joining the Scouts because she cares for them. Annie must have already intended to go after Eren because Eren was already in the Survey Corps at this point. So if Annie's attempting to dissuade her comrades from joining the Scouts, it's likely because she doesn't want to put them in harm's way. And it implies then that Annie does care for them at some level, or she would not have tried to discourage them from joining. So there has to be more to her reasoning behind capturing Eren and also hindering the Scouts. Perhaps, again, linking back to the coexistence between human and Titans that have been around far longer than people realize. And rewatching episode 1 was particularly interesting because we have our first interaction with the Warless, but we don't necessarily know that it's the War List until episode 14. So in episode 1, the War List is actually telling us that the wars are more than meets the eye, and you just kind of overlook it until you see the end of episode 25, and then you're like, holy, this is insane. The preacher in episode 1 says that the walls are not stone, rock, or mortar, that they are bastions of faith, the will of heaven manifest, which clearly implies that there's something deeper to them than what we initially thought. So we know from the end of episode 25 that there are titans inside the walls. At the beginning of episode 25, we see the Warless worshippers in circles that mimic War Maria, War Rose, and War Cena. So they're all like interlocked with their arms linked. And it makes me suspect that they're mimicking the position of the titans that the walls are built around. So like, if you think about the way that the walls are circulated, the titans must be like have their arms like interlocked in like a circle, and then obviously everything else is built around them. So how do they know this? How do they, if that's how the titans form the circles, how do they know to mimic that? So then that leads to the question that the Warless know more than they're letting on, and perhaps their preaching is a way to try and enlighten and force people to question what they know about the history of their city. There was also the conversation regarding the miner. So there was the dialogue that popped up about the miner who was trying to dig to get into the interior to have a better life. He was overheard speaking to his friend about how he was trying to dig beneath the walls and that there was no bottom and that he just kept going and going and going, and that he then disappeared, and then his friend who reported him missing also disappeared. That makes me think that there's a secret faction of the government, because it can't have been the military police, because the military police were involved in trying to find him and they were quite eager to find this miner. So it makes me think that it's somebody above the military police, almost like a secret faction who are intent on hiding the truth about the walls, and they're preventing people from revealing what they truly are. There's more to Nick than meets the eye. I think he knows more than he's letting on. I believe that his intentions are actually about opening people's eyes rather than having them just believe what is state-sanctioned truth, that potentially history and truth could have been rewritten for the benefit of the current monarchy and government at the expense of discriminating and persecuting a race of people that maybe ruled and existed prior to humanity. There's also a reference in Nick's prayer to a divine architect. So we know that they worship the Wall Rose, Wall Maria, Wall Cena as goddesses, as divinities. But there's also the mention of the divine architect. Is this maybe a titan that built the walls and perhaps could have been one that communicated with them? Maybe a titan that communicated and collaborated with humanity in a way that wasn't thought possible by titans before, like a sentient titan. Is this titan going to come up again? Potentially. I think there's more to the titans, and I have said this from the beginning, that I think it's so easy for us to be misled to just seeing them as solely evil. I think there's something deeper beneath the surface, and part of that is going to be used to humanize Annie's actions as a necessary and justified act to protect humanity as a whole from a greater evil and corruption. On to my last theory, which is Eren and his abilities. When I was watching back, I picked up on something that Grisha said to Eren in his flashback, and I switched it from dub to sub to get both translations, as I know it can differ. So in the sub, Grisha says to Eren, their memories will tell you how to use it. And in the dub, it says, when the ability confuses you, let their memories act as your guide, implying that the blood has come from someone before him, either a titan or a human-titan hybrid. So the flashbacks that Eren has could then be memories of those that came before. Because he's been injected with the blood of a titan, that these could be memories of people that have been consumed by the titan whose blood courses through his veins. So primarily because in one of the visions we see a Survey Corps squad dead, but it's not Levi's squad. I paused time and time again and overanalyzed it, and it is not Levi's squad. So it's not a premonition of what's to come. So if it's not a premonition of what's to come, it must be a memory of someone who came before. I'm not gonna lie, like the memories and the visions are a little confusing because he does foresee his mother dying. So there seems to be like an element of clairvoyance to them, but from what Gracia said, there's multiple people because he uses there in both sub and dub, which means more than one person and more than one memory. So that's what makes me think it must be the memories of the humans consumed by the Titan whose blood he's been injected with. There's also the flowers that appear in episode 10, and these flowers routinely crop up. At first I thought they were maybe like a symbol of defiance and rebellion and an indication of resilience against the cruelty of the world that they inhabit. But in the dub, Armin specifically says that the flowers weren't there before and where did they come from? And in the sub, he questions how the flowers survived. So in the sub, it's kind of implied that they were already there, but in the dub, Armin goes, well, where did these flowers come from? They weren't there before. The flowers are a reoccurring theme, so they regularly crop up, and I'm curious if they're linked then to one of the people whose memories Eren is being guided by. The flowers look like blue lilies, but I'm not entirely sure if they are. But if they are blue lilies, then the symbolism behind them is not only spiritual awareness, but also rebirth and knowledge, which could be linked then to the people whose memories now form a part of Eren's consciousness. So it's a potential symbolism as to other people acting almost as spiritual guides on Eren's journey to harness his Titan abilities, especially as he mentions that he was not sure how he knew self-harm allowed him to transform. It just came to him, which means that their memories are becoming a part of his consciousness, serving as a way to guide and direct him. I think this could also create issues and internal conflict. We see Eren going on emotional rampages and constantly threatening to kill every last one. If the memories of those who came before exist within him, could it also be possible then that the Titan also exists and his body will be thrust into this internal battle between the human side of himself and the Titan side of himself? Almost this struggle to retain his humanity when he's constantly being told and encouraged to cast it aside to become the monster he needs to be to protect those he cares about. I have a suspicion that the whole concept of only killing Titans is going to become twisted to the point that he believes humanity is a true evil and should be eradicated, because again, as Jean mentions in episode 25, that if it's that easy for the fight to turn us all into monsters, then maybe we don't deserve to win. And again, I believe that infers that the qualities that make us uniquely human are of more benefit to humanity than recklessly sacrificing everything for the chance to gain an advantage which may end up being for nothing. That if we give up our humanity to become monsters, we are no better than those we despise and don't deserve to call ourselves humans. Eren's rants about killing them all and destroying them all sometimes doesn't include the word Titan, and to me that indicates that there's going to be a slippery slope where he inevitably starts to go downhill and sees humanity, or at least the corruption of humanity, as something that needs to be eradicated for the greater good of those around him. There's also the fact that he struggles to restrain the Titan aspect of himself. We saw that when he lashed out at Mikasa and was finding it difficult to control the Titan body, almost as if the Titan was taking control. We also saw that in the fight with Annie. His eyes begin to roll back into his head, almost as if he's being possessed by something else, and that it's not necessarily Eren that's in control anymore, and that somebody else has taken over. So it's Eren's voice, but it may not necessarily be Eren's intentions coming through. There's also, and this is a leap, it may not happen, but just based on the relationship between Eren and Mikasa and their dynamic, it makes me think that if Eren goes down the path of no return, she will be the one who is forced to stop him. Because she says to Eren in episode 4 that she promised she would not let him die and that wherever he goes, she goes. I don't foresee a happy ending for them both. It doesn't seem that type of show. And based on their dynamic, I think something tragic is going to happen. And I think it could be that Mikasa is thrust into a situation where she has no choice but to fight Eren. That Mikasa may have no choice but to put her own emotions and love for Eren aside for the greater good of humanity, which aligns them with Armin's philosophy that only those who can sacrifice everything can change the world, and to Mikasa, Eren is everything. I'm not sure. These are just my theories so far. Again, I could just be on like some crackpot journey and have no clue what the show is actually going on about, and I still have so many questions as well that I want answered, so I'm going to delve in as well to the questions that I hope the show answers. And again, please do not answer them. Do not write in the comments below if my theories are right right or wrong or answer these questions. I don't want to know. I want to experience it for myself. I love this show. I'm enjoying the show so much, and it would really take away from my experience because I can only watch the show once, and having things spoiled for me ruins that first watching experience. So please do not take that away from me because the show is so beautiful. The storytelling is phenomenal. I genuinely think it would destroy me if the show got ruined for me, because then it just won't be fun because I know what will happen. I like being able to theorize. I like being able to try and figure out what I think is going to happen, and I want to see if these questions get answered. These are just questions for my own knowledge. I just want to see if this is something that the show answers, and if it doesn't answer, then maybe it's a question I can ask you guys and see if you have an answer or maybe an opinion. But I just want to use these as kind of like a basis to follow the show going forth into season 2. My first question: what's the debt that Hannes owes? And is the debt to Carla? And what's his relationship to Carla? What are the Armored Titan and Colossal attempting to do? What's their aim? It can't be a fight against humanity because they could have easily destroyed the entire city and the interior ring. Is it to invoke a civil war? Is it to make humanity realize they've become complacent under the current regime and they need to fight back? When the Colossal Titan reappeared but the Armoured didn't, why? Eren had yet to turn at this point, but did they know? Did they sense? Were they trying to bait him out? How does Keith know Grisha? Did Grisha train? Does Grisha have a secret past that we don't know about where he was a soldier? When Eren and Jon are fighting in episode 4, it zooms to Reyna and Annie watching Eren with interest. If we presume that Reyna is the Armored Titan, and we know that Annie is the female Titan, are they watching Eren because they want to see if he will transform as they sense his abilities that he has not yet displayed? If Titans don't consume to live and nourish themselves and are driven by the need to kill, is it possible that humans are the invasive species and the Titans are defending themselves the only way they know how? When Annie is apologizing to Marco after his death, is it because his death was the result of a bigger plan that she was aware of, as she is a spy on the inside and she feels guilt for him getting caught up in this and not deserving to die? What is Annie standing her ground against? Who else could she be working with? Why are they doing this? Who built the walls? And why are there Titans in the walls? Who's the divine architect? What do the Wallists know? What happened to the miner? That's so many questions and no answers, and I'm so excited to see season 2. If you enjoyed this very, very long outro where I delved into my theories and my questions going forward, then please consider liking, subscribing, and leaving a comment below to help boost this video into the algorithm and to follow me on this wonderful, amazing journey that is Attack on Titan. And until next time, bye!